In the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers towered over narrow alleyways and the hum of traffic never seemed to stop, there lived a woman named Angela. She was an ordinary-looking woman in her mid-30s, with dark skin that glowed under the sun, curly hair tied neatly into a bun, and eyes that carried both kindness and strength. To most people, she appeared like any other resident of the neighborhood, working hard during the day and returning home to relax in the evenings. But what no one knew was that Angela had a secret weapon, something that made her far from ordinary. Angela's life wasn't always easy. Growing up in a rough part of town, she learned early on how to fend for herself. Her parents worked long hours at low-paying jobs just to keep food on the table, so Angela often found herself walking home alone after school. It was during those lonely walks that she developed a deep love for animals, particularly dogs. They became her companions when human connections felt scarce. Over time, Angela saved enough money to adopt 2 dogs, Max and Luna. These weren't just any dogs. They were retired K-9 officers who had served faithfully in the police force before being put up for adoption. Angela saw potential in them and decided to give them a second chance at life. Max, a large German shepherd with sleek black fur and piercing amber eyes, was known for his speed and agility. He could chase down suspects faster than anyone else on the force. Luna, slightly smaller but equally fierce, had golden brown fur and a calm demeanor that masked her sharp instincts. Together, they formed a dynamic duo that even seasoned criminals feared. Though retired, their training remained intact, and Angela spent countless hours honing their skills. She taught them new commands, practiced drills, and ensured they stayed physically fit. Little did she know these efforts would soon save her life, and perhaps the entire neighborhood. One crisp autumn evening, as Angela returned home from grocery shopping, she noticed something unusual. A group of men stood near her front gate, their presence making the usually lively street feel eerily quiet. At first glance, they looked harmless enough, young men chatting casually, leaning against flashy cars parked haphazardly along the curb. But Angela's instincts told her otherwise. There was something about the way they carried themselves, their tattoos peeking out from rolled-up sleeves, their cocky grins, and the expensive jewelry dangling from their necks, that set off alarm bells in her mind. As she approached her gate, one of the men stepped forward. His name was Marcus, and he was the leader of a notorious criminal gang operating in the area. Dressed in designer clothes and exuding arrogance, Marcus introduced himself with a smirk. "Hey, lady," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "We're here to talk business." Angela stopped in her tracks, clutching her grocery bags tightly. She didn't need him to explain further. She already knew what this was about. Protection money, a common demand from gangs looking to extort innocent residents. Marcus continued, his tone growing more menacing. "If you pay us a little fee every month, we'll make sure nothing bad happens to your place. You wouldn't want anything unfortunate to happen, would you?" He gestured toward his crew, who chuckled menacingly behind him. Angela's heart raced, but she refused to let fear show on her face. Instead, she squared her shoulders and looked Marcus directly in the eye. "I don't think so," she replied calmly, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "I don't owe you anything, and I'm not paying." The gang erupted in laughter, clearly amused by her defiance. Marcus shook his head, sneering. "You've got guts, I'll give you that, but guts won't protect you." He took a step closer, his towering frame casting a shadow over Angela. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. Was she really prepared to face the consequences of standing up to these dangerous men? Then she remembered Max and Luna waiting patiently inside the house, ready to spring into action at her command. With renewed confidence, Angela gave a sharp whistle. From inside the house came the sound of paws pounding against the floor, followed by 2 powerful barks that echoed through the street. The gang members froze as Max and Luna burst through the door, their muscular bodies moving with precision and purpose. The sight of the massive German shepherd sent shivers down everyone's spines. Even Marcus stumbled backward, momentarily stunned. Angela crossed her arms and addressed the gang. "These aren't ordinary dogs," she said firmly. They're trained K-9 officers, and trust me, you don't want to mess with them or me." The gang exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to react. Some tried to act tough, muttering threats under their breath, but none dared to take another step forward. Max growled low, his teeth bared, while Luna circled the group, her gaze locked onto Marcus. Angela watched the scene unfold, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. She knew the gang wouldn't back down without a fight, but she also knew she had the upper hand. For now. Word of Angela's encounter with the gang spread quickly through the neighborhood. Neighbors whispered about the brave woman who stood up to Marcus and his crew, armed only with her wits and her dogs. Many admired her courage, while others worried it might escalate into something worse. Still, Angela remained unfazed. She went about her daily routine, keeping a close watch on her surroundings and ensuring Max and Luna were always nearby. The gang, however, wasn't ready to let go of their pride or their territory. Days turned into weeks, and Angela began noticing subtle signs of retaliation. Strange cars parked outside her house late at night, shadows lurking in the corners of her street, and graffiti sprayed on nearby walls warning her to back off. Despite the intimidation tactics, Angela refused to be cowed. She reinforced her security measures, installing cameras around her property and teaching her neighbors basic self-defense techniques. She also started patrolling the streets with Max and Luna, their imposing presence deterring anyone who thought about causing trouble. One fateful evening, as Angela walked past a dimly lit alley, she spotted several figures dressed in black, their faces obscured by masks. Her instincts screamed danger. Without hesitation, she signaled for Max and Luna to stay hidden until the right moment. As the gang attempted to rob a local shopkeeper, Angela gave the command. In an instant, Max and Luna sprang into action, disarming the criminals and pinning them to the ground. Passers-by called the police, who arrived promptly to arrest the culprits. Angela's quick thinking and her dog's impeccable training had saved the day once again. Her bravery earned her widespread admiration, and soon, Angela became a symbol of hope in the community. Local news outlets dubbed her the guardian of the neighborhood, and people began seeking her guidance on dealing with similar threats. Angela shared stories of her past experiences working alongside law enforcement, emphasizing the importance of teamwork between humans and animals. Slowly but surely, the neighborhood came together, united in their determination to stand up against crime. Though Marcus and his gang eventually fled the area, Angela remained vigilant. She continued her patrols, always accompanied by Max and Luna, whose loyalty never wavered. Through grit, determination, and the unwavering support of her canine companions, Angela transformed her neighborhood and herself into symbols of hope and resilience. Her story served as a reminder that true strength lies not in weapons or intimidation, but in the power of unity, love, and trust. Angela's bold stand against Marcus and his gang had sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. News of her confrontation spread like wildfire, with everyone talking about the fearless woman who dared to challenge one of the most dangerous gangs in the city. Some admired her courage, while others worried that her actions might provoke retaliation. But Angela didn't have time to dwell on either praise or fear. She knew the gang wouldn't back down easily, and she prepared herself for whatever came next. The days following the incident were tense. Angela noticed subtle changes around her home and neighborhood, things that hinted at the gang's lingering presence. Strange cars began parking near her house late at night, their engines idling, as if waiting for something. Shadows moved furtively along the streets, disappearing into alleyways whenever someone approached. Graffiti appeared on nearby walls, scrawled in red paint, "Back off, and you'll pay." It was clear that Marcus and his crew weren't ready to let go of their pride or their hold over the area. Despite these ominous signs, Angela refused to live in fear. She decided to take matters into her own hands, reinforcing her security measures to ensure she and her neighbors were protected. First, she installed surveillance cameras around her property, positioning them strategically to cover every angle. Then she bought motion-activated floodlights to illuminate the darkest corners of her yard. Knowing that technology alone wouldn't be enough, Angela also taught her neighbors basic self-defense techniques. She held informal training sessions in her backyard, demonstrating simple but effective moves they could use if they ever found themselves in danger. But Angela's greatest asset remained Max and Luna. The dogs were more than just pets. They were her loyal partners, trained to respond instantly to her commands. Every morning and evening, Angela took them on patrol around the neighborhood, their powerful strides commanding respect. People who once avoided walking outside after sunset now felt safer seeing Angela and her dogs keeping watch. Children waved excitedly at Max and Luna, while adults nodded gratefully at Angela. Her presence brought a sense of calm to the community, even as the tension simmered beneath the surface. One chilly evening, as Angela walked past a dimly lit alley near the local convenience store, she spotted several figures dressed in black, their faces obscured by masks. Her instincts immediately screamed danger. Something about their posture and behavior suggested they were up to no good. Angela signaled for Max and Luna to stay hidden behind a parked car until the right moment. She crouched low, watching intently as the masked men surrounded the shopkeeper, demanding money from the cash register. The shopkeeper, an elderly man named Mr. Patel, looked terrified. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the register, trying to comply with their demands. Just as one of the men grabbed a bag of cash, Angela gave the signal. In an instant, Max and Luna sprang into action, moving with precision and speed that left the gang members stunned. Luna tackled the closest man to the ground, pinning him with her weight while Max lunged at another, knocking the weapon out of his hand. The rest of the gang scrambled to escape, tripping over each other in panic. Passers-by who witnessed the scene quickly called the police, who arrived within minutes to arrest the culprits. Mr. Patel, tears streaming down his face, thanked Angela profusely for saving him. "You are our hero," he said, clutching her hand. Angela simply smiled, brushing off the compliment. "I'm just doing what anyone else would do," she replied humbly. But deep down, she knew this wasn't true. Few people would have risked their lives the way she did, especially against such a dangerous group. Word of Angela's bravery spread even further after the incident. Local news outlets picked up the story, dubbing her the Guardian of the T neighborhood. Reporters knocked on her door, eager to interview her and learn more about her extraordinary dogs. Angela welcomed the attention, not because she craved fame, but because it gave her a platform to inspire others. During interviews, she spoke passionately about the importance of standing up for oneself and one's community. "Fear is natural," she told reporters, "but letting it control you is a choice. We all have the power to make a difference if we're willing to fight for what's right." Her words resonated deeply with many residents, sparking a wave of change throughout the neighborhood. Neighbors who had previously kept to themselves started reaching out to one another, forming bonds that strengthened their collective resolve. Schools invited Angela to speak to students about courage and resilience, and animal shelters reported a surge in adoptions as people realized the potential of rescue dogs. Even the police department reached out, offering to collaborate with Angela on community safety initiatives. Together, they organized workshops and patrols, combining human effort with canine expertise to combat crime effectively. Meanwhile, Marcus and his gang grew increasingly frustrated. Losing control over Angela's block meant losing face among other criminals, and they couldn't afford to appear weak. They plotted revenge, determined to reclaim their dominance. Rumors circulated that they were planning a major attack, one that would send a clear message to anyone thinking of challenging them. Angela heard these whispers but didn't let them shake her confidence. Instead, she doubled down on her preparations, ensuring her neighbors were equipped to handle any situation. Late one night, as Angela sat in her living room reviewing security footage, she noticed something alarming. A van had parked a few blocks away, its occupants unloading large crates under the cover of darkness. Suspicious, Angela grabbed a flashlight and quietly stepped outside, signaling for Max and Luna to follow. As she crept closer, she realized the gang was stockpiling weapons, an unmistakable sign that trouble was brewing. Without hesitation, Angela called the police, providing them with detailed information about the location and activities of the gang members. Within hours, law enforcement raided the site, confiscating illegal firearms and arresting several key members of the gang. Marcus himself narrowly escaped capture, slipping away into the shadows. Though he vowed to return, his influence in the area had been severely weakened. Angela's quick thinking and resourcefulness had dealt yet another blow to the gang's operations, further solidifying her reputation as a force to be reckoned with. As weeks turned into months, the neighborhood transformed. Streets that were once plagued by violence became safer, thanks to Angela's tireless efforts and the unity she inspired among residents. People no longer hesitated to report suspicious activity or intervene when they saw wrongdoing. Angela continued her patrols with Max and Luna, always vigilant but hopeful for a brighter future. She often reflected on how far they had come, not just as individuals but as a community. Though challenges still lay ahead, Angela faced them with unwavering determination. She knew the road to lasting peace wouldn't be easy, but she believed in the power of perseverance. With Max and Luna by her side, she felt unstoppable. Together, they had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and teamwork could triumph over fear and intimidation. And so, Angela's journey continued, inspiring countless others to rise above adversity and create a world where justice prevailed. Angela's reputation as the guardian of the neighborhood continued to grow, and with it came a newfound sense of hope in the community. People who had once lived in fear of Marcus and his gang now felt empowered to reclaim their streets. Angela's actions inspired them to believe that change was possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. But while the neighborhood celebrated its victories, Angela remained acutely aware that the fight wasn't over yet. The gang still lurked in the shadows, plotting their next move, and Angela knew she couldn't afford to let her guard down. Her daily routine became a balancing act between vigilance and normalcy. Every morning, Angela woke up at dawn, brewed a strong cup of coffee, and reviewed footage from her security cameras. She meticulously scanned each frame, looking for anything unusual. Strange vehicles parked nearby, unfamiliar faces lingering on street corners, or suspicious activity around local businesses. Once satisfied that everything seemed safe, she took Max and Luna out for their morning patrol. These walks weren't just about keeping an eye on things, they were also an opportunity for Angela to connect with her neighbors. She greeted shopkeepers, checked in on elderly residents, and reassured parents worried about their children's safety. One particular morning, Angela noticed something odd during her patrol. A group of teenagers loitered near the park, their body language tense and guarded. They didn't look like typical troublemakers, but Angela's instincts told her otherwise. As she approached with Max and Luna close behind, one of the boys muttered something under his breath before walking away quickly. The others followed suit, leaving behind a crumpled piece of paper. Curious, Angela picked it up and unfolded it. Her heart sank as she read the words scrawled across the page. "Meet us tonight. We'll settle this." It didn't take long for Angela to realize what this meant. Marcus and his gang were trying to draw her into a trap. The note was deliberately left for her to find, a taunt designed to provoke her into confronting them, head on. Angela clenched her fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. She wanted nothing more than to march straight into whatever scheme they had planned and put an end to their threats once and for all. But she knew better than to act impulsively. If she walked into their trap without a plan, she risked not only her own life but also the safety of her neighbors and Max and Luna. Instead, Angela decided to turn the tables. She called a meeting with some of the most trusted members of the community: Mr. Patel, the shopkeeper she'd saved; Mrs. Carter, a retired school teacher who organized neighborhood watch programs; and Jamal, a young mechanic who had recently started volunteering to help patrol the area. Together, they devised a strategy to counter the gang's plans. Angela shared the note with them, explaining her suspicions. "They want me to come alone," she said firmly. "But we're stronger, together. Let's use that against them." The group agreed to set up a decoy operation. Angela would make it appear as though she intended to meet the gang alone, while the rest of the team prepared to intervene if needed. Mr. Patel offered to keep his store open late, positioning himself near the window to monitor the situation, discreetly. Mrs. Carter coordinated with other neighbors to keep an eye on surrounding streets, ready to call the police at the first sign of trouble. Jamal rigged a few harmless smoke bombs to create distractions if necessary. Meanwhile, Max and Luna would remain hidden until Angela gave the signal, ensuring they could strike swiftly and decisively when the time came. That evening, Angela walked confidently toward the designated meeting spot, a deserted lot on the outskirts of the neighborhood. Her heart pounded with anticipation, but she maintained her composure, knowing that any sign of weakness would only embolden the gang. As expected, Marcus and several of his cronies were waiting for her, their expressions smug and triumphant. "I knew you'd show up," Marcus sneered, stepping forward. "Alone, just like I asked." Angela smirked, folding her arms across her chest. "You really think I'm stupid enough to fall for your tricks?" she replied coolly. Before Marcus could respond, chaos erupted. Smoke filled the air as Jamal's devices went off, obscuring the gang's vision. From the shadows emerged Max and Luna, barking fiercely as they charged toward the startled criminals. At the same time, Mr. Patel activated the floodlights he'd installed earlier, bathing the entire lot in blinding light. Neighbors poured onto the scene armed with whistles, flashlights, and shouts of defiance. Even Mrs. Carter joined in, wielding a broomstick like a seasoned warrior. Caught completely off guard, the gang scrambled to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. Within minutes, police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as officers arrived to apprehend the fleeing criminals. Marcus tried to escape through a narrow alley, but Angela anticipated his move. With a sharp whistle, she directed Max and Luna to cut him off. The dogs cornered Marcus, their teeth bared and growls echoing menacingly. By the time the police reached him, he was kneeling on the ground, hands raised in surrender. The arrest of Marcus and his gang marked a turning point for the neighborhood. For years they had terrorized residents, extorting money, vandalizing property, and instilling fear in anyone who dared to resist. Now, thanks to Angela's leadership and the collective efforts of the community, they were finally brought to justice. News of their capture spread rapidly, and people celebrated openly, flooding the streets with cheers and applause. Angela stood quietly amidst the jubilation, watching as families embraced and children played freely without worry. It was a moment of triumph, not just for her but for everyone who had fought alongside her. In the days that followed, Angela found herself overwhelmed by gratitude from her neighbors. Strangers stopped her on the street to thank her, tears streaming down their faces. Local businesses hung banners outside their shops proclaiming, "Thank you, Angela," and "Our hero." Even the mayor paid a visit, presenting her with a certificate of appreciation for her bravery and dedication to the community. Despite the accolades, Angela remained humble. "This victory belongs to all of us," she insisted during an impromptu speech at a neighborhood gathering. "None of this would have been possible without your support, your courage, and your belief that things could be different." As life slowly returned to normal, Angela reflected on how much had changed, not just externally but within herself as well. When she first adopted Max and Luna, she never imagined they would become such integral parts of her journey. Their unwavering loyalty and incredible abilities had not only protected her, but also united an entire community. Through their partnership, Angela discovered strength she didn't know she possessed and learned the true meaning of resilience. Yet, despite the newfound peace, Angela understood that complacency was dangerous. Crime might have been driven out of her neighborhood, but it still existed elsewhere, lurking in the darker corners of the city. Determined to continue making a difference, Angela partnered with local organizations to expand her efforts beyond her immediate surroundings. She began hosting workshops on personal safety and responsible pet ownership, emphasizing the importance of training rescue dogs like Max and Luna. Animal shelters saw a surge in adoptions as people realized the potential of these overlooked companions. Many adopted dogs went on to become beloved family members, while others were trained to assist in community patrols. Angela also collaborated closely with law enforcement, sharing insights from her experiences and advocating for greater cooperation between police forces and residents. Together, they launched initiatives aimed at preventing crime before it occurred, focusing on education, mentorship, and rehabilitation programs for at-risk youth. Angela often visited schools, speaking to students about the value of empathy, accountability, and standing up for what's right. Her message resonated deeply, especially among younger generations eager to create positive change. Even as her responsibilities grew, Angela never lost sight of what truly mattered: her connection with Max and Luna. The bond they shared was unbreakable, forged through countless moments of trust, teamwork, and love. Whether patrolling the streets, playing fetch in the backyard, or simply relaxing together after a long day, Angela cherished every second spent with her loyal companions. They reminded her that no matter how challenging life became, she was never truly alone. Years later, when asked about her journey, Angela smiled warmly, her eyes glistening with emotion. "People always ask me how I found the courage to stand up to those men," she said. "The truth is I was scared, terrified actually. But fear doesn't have to define you. Sometimes it's just a reminder that you're alive, that you care enough to fight for something bigger than yourself." She glanced down at Max and Luna, who sat proudly beside her, their tails wagging enthusiastically. And having good partners makes all the difference. Angela's legacy lived on long after the headlines faded. Her story became a beacon of hope for communities struggling with similar challenges, proving that ordinary individuals could achieve extraordinary things when they worked together. Streets once ruled by fear transformed into thriving hubs of unity and strength. And though Angela never sought recognition, her name became synonymous with courage, resilience, and the enduring power of love for one's community, one's family, and yes, even one's dogs. The victory over Marcus and his gang marked a new chapter in Angela's life, but it wasn't the end of her journey. If anything, it was the beginning of something much bigger, a ripple effect that spread far beyond her neighborhood. The arrest of the gang members had sent shockwaves through the city, inspiring other communities to take a stand against crime and injustice. People from all walks of life reached out to Angela, eager to learn how she had managed to unite her neighbors and transform fear into action. Angela welcomed their questions with open arms, knowing that sharing her experiences could help others facing similar struggles. One of the first things Angela did after the dust settled was organize a community meeting. She invited everyone, residents, local business owners, teachers, and even curious teenagers to gather at the park. The atmosphere was electric, filled with excitement and anticipation. Angela stood on a makeshift stage flanked by Max and Luna, who sat proudly beside her, their presence a reminder of the power of teamwork. "We've come so far," she began, her voice steady yet warm. "But this is just the start. Together, we've shown what can happen when we refuse to let fear control us. Now it's time to build on that foundation." Angela outlined a plan to strengthen the neighborhood further. She proposed setting up regular patrols, not just for security, but also as a way to foster connections among residents. She suggested forming committees to address specific issues like education, youth mentorship, and environmental cleanup. Most importantly, she emphasized the need to remain vigilant while continuing to support one another. "Crime doesn't disappear overnight," she reminded everyone. "It thrives where people feel disconnected and powerless. Our job is to make sure that never happens here again." Inspired by Angela's vision, the community rallied behind her ideas. Local schools partnered with Angela to create programs aimed at teaching students about responsibility, empathy, and leadership. Teachers incorporated lessons on conflict resolution and civic engagement, encouraging children to think critically about how they could contribute to their community. Angela often visited classrooms, bringing Max and Luna along to demonstrate the importance of trust and cooperation. Students adored the dogs, peppering Angela with questions about their training and asking if they too could someday adopt rescue animals. These interactions planted seeds of hope in young minds, nurturing a generation determined to break the cycle of violence. Meanwhile, Angela collaborated closely with law enforcement to implement proactive measures that would prevent crime before it took root. She worked with officers to design workshops focused on building stronger relationships between police and residents. During these sessions, participants learned practical skills like self-defense and emergency preparedness, as well as strategies for identifying and reporting suspicious activity. Angela also advocated for rehabilitation programs targeting at-risk youth, believing firmly that prevention was better than punishment. Every child deserves a chance to succeed, she told officials during a town hall meeting. If we invest in them now, we won't have to fight battles later. Her efforts extended beyond human connections. Angela became a passionate advocate for animal welfare as well. After seeing firsthand how Max and Luna had transformed her life, she wanted others to experience the same joy and purpose that came from adopting rescue dogs. She teamed up with local shelters to host adoption events, showcasing the incredible potential of animals often overlooked by prospective owners. Each event featured demonstrations highlighting the capabilities of trained canines, dispelling myths about aggressive or unruly behavior. Many attendees left with new furry companions, inspired by Angela's story and eager to embark on their own adventures. As word of Angela's initiative spread, invitations poured in from neighboring districts and even distant cities. Community leaders sought her advice on tackling gang violence, organizing grassroots movements, and fostering unity among diverse groups. Angela traveled whenever possible, delivering speeches and leading workshops that combined personal anecdotes with actionable steps. Her message resonated deeply because it was rooted in authenticity. She didn't pretend to have all the answers, nor did she claim to be fearless. Instead, she emphasized the importance of taking small, consistent actions that added up to meaningful change. You don't have to be extraordinary to make a difference, she often said. You just have to care enough to try. Despite her growing influence, Angela remained grounded, always prioritizing her role as a neighbor and friend. She continued her daily patrols with Max and Luna, ensuring that no corner of the community went unnoticed. Along the way, she checked in on elderly residents, offered words of encouragement to struggling families, and celebrated milestones with those who had become like family to her. Her presence brought comfort and reassurance, reminding everyone that they were part of something greater than themselves. But Angela's journey wasn't without challenges. As her profile grew, so did criticism from skeptics who doubted her methods or accused her of seeking attention. Some dismissed her success as a fluke, arguing that her approach wouldn't work in larger, more complex urban areas. Others questioned whether relying on dogs for security undermined traditional policing efforts. Angela listened patiently to these concerns, acknowledging valid points while standing firm in her convictions. Change isn't easy, she admitted during an interview, and it doesn't look the same everywhere. What works for us might not work for someone else, and that's okay. The key is finding solutions tailored to your community's needs. 2. Prove her point. Angela launched a pilot program in collaboration with social workers and psychologists. The initiative paired at-risk youth with rescue dogs, providing both groups with structure, companionship, and a sense of purpose. Participants learned basic obedience training techniques, participated in team-building exercises, and engaged in open discussions about overcoming adversity. Over time, many of the young people involved in the program reported feeling less isolated and more hopeful about their futures. Several went on to pursue careers in animal care or public service, crediting the experience with helping them turn their lives around. Back home, Angela's own neighborhood continued to thrive. Streets once plagued by graffiti and broken windows now boasted vibrant murals and flower gardens. Empty lots transformed into playgrounds and community centers, offering safe spaces for children to play and adults to gather. Businesses flourished, thanks in part to increased foot traffic and reduced crime rates. Neighbors greeted one another warmly, exchanging stories and laughter, as if rediscovering the joy of human connection. It was a stark contrast to the tension and mistrust that had defined the area just months earlier. Through it all, Angela remained humble, deflecting praise onto the community that had supported her every step of the way. "This isn't my story, it's ours," she insisted during a televised interview. I may have started this journey, but it's the people around me who made it possible. They showed up, spoke out, and refused to give up, even when things seemed impossible. Her words carried weight because they were true. Without the collective effort of countless individuals, none of the progress achieved would have been possible. As the years passed, Angela's impact rippled outward, touching lives far beyond her immediate surroundings. Former gang members who had served their sentences reached out to her, seeking guidance on reintegrating into society. Some found solace in volunteering alongside her, using their past experiences to mentor others navigating similar struggles. Others pursued education or vocational training, determined to rewrite their narratives. Angela welcomed them with open arms, believing firmly in second chances and the transformative power of redemption. Even as she aged, Angela refused to slow down. Max and Luna eventually passed away, leaving behind paw prints etched forever in her heart. In their honor, Angela adopted 2 new dogs, Rex and Daisy, who quickly proved themselves worthy successors. Together, the trio carried on the legacy of courage and compassion that had defined Angela's life. Whether patrolling the streets, visiting schools, or advocating for policy changes, Angela remained a steadfast beacon of hope. Looking back on her journey, Angela marveled at how much had changed, not just in her neighborhood but within herself as well. She had started as a woman simply trying to protect her home, only to discover a calling that transcended boundaries. Through grit, determination, and the unwavering support of her canine companions, she had ignited a movement that empowered countless others to stand up, speak out, and believe in the possibility of a brighter future. And though the road ahead still held uncertainties, Angela faced them with the same resilience that had carried her thus far. For her, the fight wasn't just about justice, it was about love. Love for her community, love for her dogs, and love for the endless potential of humanity to rise above its flaws and shine. Years had passed since Angela's initial stand against Marcus and his gang, but her influence continued to grow, spreading far beyond the borders of her neighborhood. What began as a personal mission to protect her home evolved into a citywide movement that inspired countless others to take action in their own communities. Angela's story became a beacon of hope, a testament to the idea that one person, armed with determination and compassion, could spark monumental change. Despite her growing fame, Angela remained deeply rooted in the community that had shaped her journey. Every morning she woke up early, brewed a cup of coffee, and walked through the streets with Rex and Daisy, her loyal canine companions. These walks weren't just about patrolling. They were an opportunity for Angela to connect with her neighbors, listen to their concerns, and celebrate their victories. From shopkeepers reopening stores that had once been abandoned to children playing freely in newly renovated parks, Angela saw tangible evidence of how far they'd come. Yet, she also understood that progress was fragile and required constant nurturing. One day, while visiting a local school, Angela received an unexpected invitation. A national organization dedicated to urban renewal and crime prevention wanted her to speak at their annual conference. They admired her grassroots approach and believed her story could inspire other cities grappling with similar challenges. At first, Angela hesitated. Public speaking wasn't something she particularly enjoyed, and she worried that stepping onto such a large platform might pull her away from the work she loved most, working directly with her community. But after much thought, she accepted the offer, realizing it was an opportunity to amplify her message and reach even more people. The conference took place in a bustling convention center in another state, filled with policymakers, activists, and community leaders eager to learn from one another. When Angela stepped onto the stage, accompanied by Rex and Daisy, the audience erupted into applause. She smiled nervously, adjusting the microphone before beginning her speech. "I never imagined I'd be standing here today," she admitted honestly. "When I first adopted Max and Luna, my only goal was to give them a good home. Little did I know they would teach me so much about courage, teamwork, and the power of unconditional love." Angela recounted her journey, from confronting Marcus and his gang, to uniting her neighbors and transforming fear into action. She, spoke candidly about the challenges she faced, including moments of doubt and the sacrifices she made along the way. "There were times when I felt like giving up," she confessed. "But every time I looked into the eyes of my dogs or saw the determination in my neighbors' faces, I remembered why I started this fight. It wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about creating a world where everyone could feel safe and valued." Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in agreement or wiped away tears. After her speech, Angela participated in panel discussions, sharing practical strategies for building resilient communities. She emphasized the importance of collaboration, urging attendees to involve residents, law enforcement, schools, and businesses in their efforts. "No single group can solve these problems alone," she explained. "It takes all of us working together to create lasting change." Her insights earned widespread praise, with many participants vowing to implement her ideas back home. Returning to her neighborhood, Angela brought newfound energy to her initiatives. Inspired by conversations at the conference, she expanded her youth mentorship program, partnering with local universities to provide scholarships and internships for underprivileged students. She also launched a campaign to beautify public spaces, encouraging residents to paint murals, plant trees, and install benches in areas that had long been neglected. These projects not only improved the physical environment, but also fostered a sense of pride and ownership among community members. As Angela's influence grew, so did the recognition she received. Local newspapers published glowing profiles of her work, highlighting her innovative methods and unwavering dedication. National media outlets picked up her story, airing segments on television and featuring articles online. Soon, Angela found herself fielding requests for interviews, guest appearances, and speaking engagements across the country. While she appreciated the attention, she remained steadfast in her commitment to staying grounded. "All of this is wonderful," she told a reporter during one interview, "but what matters most is the work happening right here every single day." Even amidst her busy schedule, Angela prioritized spending time with Rex and Daisy. The bond she shared with her dogs was unbreakable, a source of strength and joy that sustained her through life's ups and downs. Whether training them for new tasks, taking them on long hikes, or simply relaxing at home, Angela cherished every moment spent with her furry companions. Their presence reminded her that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was always room for love and laughter. One evening, as Angela sat on her porch watching the sunset, she reflected on how much her life had changed. Gone were the days when she walked home alone, clutching groceries and hoping to avoid trouble. Now her street buzzed with activity, children riding bicycles, families hosting barbecues, and neighbors chatting over fences. It was a stark contrast to the tension and fear that had once defined the area. Angela felt immense gratitude for everyone who had contributed to this transformation, knowing it wouldn't have been possible without their collective effort. Yet she also recognized that the fight against crime and injustice was ongoing. New challenges continually emerged, requiring vigilance and adaptability. For instance, drug dealers occasionally tried to infiltrate the neighborhood, targeting vulnerable individuals with promises of quick money. Angela worked closely with law enforcement to identify and intercept these threats before they escalated. She also collaborated with social workers to provide support for those struggling with addiction, believing firmly that compassion was key to breaking destructive cycles. In addition to addressing external threats, Angela focused on strengthening internal bonds within the community. She organized regular events designed to bring people together, block parties, movie nights, and holiday celebrations. These gatherings fostered connections between neighbors who might otherwise never interact, creating a network of mutual support that extended beyond superficial pleasantries. During one particularly memorable event, Angela orchestrated a talent show featuring performances by local children. As parents cheered and clapped, Angela couldn't help but smile, marveling at how far they'd come since the dark days of gang violence. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. One afternoon, a delegation from the mayor's office arrived at Angela's doorstep, bearing news she hadn't anticipated. They informed her that the city council had unanimously voted to name a newly constructed park after her. a tribute to her tireless dedication to improving the lives of others. "We call it Angela's Hope Park," one official announced proudly. "It symbolizes everything you've achieved and serves as a reminder that no matter how difficult things seem, hope can always prevail." Overwhelmed with emotion, Angela accepted the honor graciously, thanking the officials and her neighbors for their support. The following week, she attended the park's grand opening ceremony, surrounded by friends, family, and admirers. As balloons soared into the sky and children scampered across the playground equipment, Angela felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was more than just a park. It was a testament to the power of unity, resilience, and love. Even as accolades poured in, Angela stayed true to her roots, continuing to prioritize the needs of her community above all else. She mentored young activists eager to follow in her footsteps, offering guidance and encouragement as they embarked on their own journeys. She advocated for policy changes aimed at addressing systemic issues like poverty, inequality, and lack of access to education. And she never stopped believing in the potential of rescue animals, championing their adoption and integration into society. Through it all, Angela carried lessons learned from her experiences, lessons about courage, perseverance, and the boundless capacity of the human spirit to overcome adversity. She knew that while she had accomplished much, there was still work to be done. Crime might have retreated from her neighborhood, but it lingered elsewhere, casting shadows over countless lives. Angela resolved to keep fighting, not just for her block, but for every corner of the city and beyond. As dusk settled over Angela's Hope Park one evening, she stood quietly, watching as Rex and Daisy chased each other playfully across the grass. Nearby families laughed and talked, their voices blending harmoniously with the sounds of nature. Angela felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that her legacy would endure long after she was gone. Through grit, determination, and the unwavering support of her canine companions, she had ignited a movement that empowered others to believe in themselves and their ability to create change. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, Angela faced it with the same resilience that had carried her thus far. For her, the fight wasn't just about justice, it was about love. Love for her community, love for her dogs, and love for the endless potential of humanity to rise above its flaws and shine. As the years rolled on, Angela's legacy continued to grow, touching lives far beyond what she could have ever imagined. Her story had become more than just a tale of one woman standing up to a gang. It was now a symbol of resilience, unity, and the transformative power of love. From local neighborhoods to distant cities, people looked to Angela as a guiding light, someone who had shown that even in the darkest times, hope and action could prevail. But for Angela, the journey was never about fame or recognition. It was about making a difference, no matter how small. Her days were still filled with purpose, though they had changed significantly since those early mornings when she first began patrolling her block with Max and Luna. Now Rex and Daisy accompanied her everywhere, their presence a constant reminder of the bond she shared with her original canine companions. Though Max and Luna had passed away years earlier, their memory lived on in every bark, wagging tail, and loyal gaze from Rex and Daisy. Angela often spoke about them fondly during interviews and community events, crediting them with teaching her the true meaning of teamwork and trust. Despite her age, Angela refused to slow down. She continued to organize workshops, lead neighborhood patrols, and mentor young activists eager to follow in her footsteps. Her home became a hub of activity, with neighbors dropping by to share concerns, seek advice, or simply thank her for all she had done. Angela welcomed everyone with open arms, offering words of wisdom and encouragement. "You don't need superpowers to make a difference," she often said. "All you need is courage, compassion, and a willingness to try." One of Angela's proudest achievements was the expansion of her youth mentorship program. What had started as a small initiative aimed at keeping local teenagers off the streets had blossomed into a citywide network connecting hundreds of young people with mentors, resources, and opportunities. Many of the program's participants went on to pursue higher education, start businesses, or dedicate themselves to serving their communities. Some even returned to volunteer alongside Angela, inspired to pay forward the support they had received. Among these former mentees was Jamal, the young mechanic who had once rigged smoke bombs to help Angela outsmart Marcus and his gang. Now, a successful entrepreneur, Jamal owned a thriving auto repair shop that employed dozens of locals, many of whom were former gang members seeking a fresh start. He credited Angela with changing his life, not just by believing in him but by showing him that redemption was possible. "She taught me that it's never too late to rewrite your story," Jamal told a reporter during an interview. "And now, I want to do the same for others." Angela's impact extended beyond human connections. Her advocacy for rescue animals had also gained momentum. Thanks to her efforts, countless dogs found loving homes, transforming the lives of both the animals and their adopters. Shelters across the region reported record-breaking adoption rates, with many families citing Angela's influence as their inspiration. To honor Max, Luna, Rex, and Daisy, Angela founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to training rescue dogs for roles in community safety and therapy work. The program quickly gained traction, producing highly skilled K-9s that assisted police forces, schools, and hospitals nationwide. Even as her initiatives flourished, Angela remained deeply committed to her roots. She attended every community meeting, celebrated every milestone, and supported every neighbor in need. Whether helping an elderly resident fix a leaky roof or organizing fundraisers for struggling families, Angela approached each task with the same dedication and humility that defined her character. Her neighbors admired her not just for her accomplishments, but for her unwavering kindness and generosity. One chilly winter evening, as Angela sat by the fireplace with Rex and Daisy curled up at her feet, she reflected on her journey. So much had changed since the day she first stood up to Marcus and his gang. Streets once ruled by fear were now vibrant hubs of life and laughter. Families who had once kept to themselves now gathered regularly, sharing meals and stories. Businesses thrived, schools flourished, and parks buzzed with activity. It was a stark contrast to the tension and mistrust that had once defined the area. Yet Angela knew that progress was never permanent. It required constant care and vigilance. The following spring, Angela received an invitation that would mark another milestone in her journey. A prestigious national foundation wanted to present her with an award for her contributions to social justice and community empowerment. The ceremony took place in a grand hall filled with dignitaries, activists, and leaders from around the world. As Angela walked onto the stage to accept the honor, the audience rose to their feet, applauding thunderously. For a moment, she felt overwhelmed, her mind racing back to the humble beginnings of her fight against injustice. In her acceptance speech, Angela spoke candidly about the challenges she had faced and the lessons she had learned along the way. "When I look back on my journey," she said, her voice steady yet emotional, "I see not just my own struggles but the collective strength of everyone who stood beside me. This award isn't mine alone. It belongs to every person who refused to give up, who chose hope over fear, and who believed in the possibility of a better tomorrow." Her words brought tears to many eyes, including her own. Returning home, Angela carried the weight of the award lightly, refusing to let it overshadow the work that still lay ahead. She knew that while accolades were meaningful, they paled in comparison to the real victories: the smiles of children playing safely in the park, the gratitude of neighbors finding solace in unity, and the wagging tails of dogs who had found second chances. These were the moments that truly mattered. As time passed, Angela gradually stepped back from some of her responsibilities, entrusting younger generations to carry the torch. She passed leadership of her programs to trusted colleagues, confident that they would continue her mission with the same passion and integrity. But she didn't disappear entirely. Instead, she focused on mentoring emerging leaders, offering guidance and support whenever needed. Her wisdom became a guiding force for countless individuals striving to create positive change. Even in her later years, Angela remained a fixture in the community. Neighbors still sought her counsel, knowing that her insights were invaluable. Children ran to greet her whenever she walked by, eager to pet Rex and Daisy or hear one of her legendary stories. Angela embraced these interactions, cherishing the connections that had sustained her throughout her life. She often joked that retirement wasn't an option for someone like her. There was always something to be done, someone to help, or a new challenge to tackle. One summer afternoon, as Angela strolled through Angela's Hope Park with Rex and Daisy, she paused to watch a group of children playing soccer. Their laughter echoed through the air, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the chirping of birds. For a moment, Angela closed her eyes, savoring the beauty of the scene. When she opened them again, she noticed a young girl waving excitedly at her. "Ms. Angela," the child called out, "will you teach us how to train our puppy like yours?" Angela smiled warmly, nodding as she approached the group. "Of course," she replied. "But remember, it's not just about training. It's about building trust, showing patience, and giving love. That's what makes a team unbeatable." The children nodded eagerly, hanging on her every word. As Angela knelt down to demonstrate a simple command to the puppy, she realized that her journey would never truly end. Each generation carried forward the lessons of the past, adding their own voices and dreams to the tapestry of hope. Years later, when Angela finally passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by loved ones and her faithful dogs, the entire community mourned her loss. Flags flew at half-mast, schools observed moments of silence, and flowers piled high at Angela's Hope Park. Yet amidst the grief, there was also celebration, a recognition of the extraordinary life she had lived, and the indelible mark she had left on the world. Angela's story became legend, passed down from parent to child, teacher to student, neighbor to neighbor. Her name became synonymous with courage, resilience, and the belief that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things. And though she was gone, her spirit endured, in the laughter of children, the wagging tails of rescue dogs, and the hearts of everyone she had touched. Through grit, determination, and the unwavering support of her canine companions, Angela had transformed not just her neighborhood, but the very fabric of her community. Her journey reminded everyone that heroes aren't born, they're made, step by step, decision by decision, until they shine brightly enough to light the way for others. And so, Angela's legacy lived on, a testament to the idea that even the smallest acts of defiance can spark the biggest changes.